Get ready for a story that will touch your heart. Today we tell the transformative journey of Dr. John, a doctor who learned that the true meaning of saving lives goes beyond hospital rules. Dr. John was a dedicated professional, known for his precision and competence. His colleagues admired his commitment, but few knew the man behind the white coat, a man who would rigidly follow hospital policies without questioning them. Amid diagnoses and treatments, Dr. John's life was a routine of certainties and efficiency. But that day he didn't know that a simple encounter would change his life forever, revealing a side of himself he didn't know. That morning, the hospital was busier than usual. Among crowded corridors and nonstop emergencies, a visibly distressed pregnant young woman entered, holding her belly with trembling hands and eyes full of despair. She approached the reception, her trembling voice echoing through the lobby. "Please, I need help. My baby." But her words met insurmountable barriers. She had no health insurance. The desperation on her face was palpable, a plea that no one seemed willing to hear. Dr. John watched from afar, his heart torn between compassion and obedience to hospital rules. "I'm sorry, miss, but without health insurance, I can't treat you," he finally said, his words sounding like a verdict. The young woman left in tears, while the shadow of guilt began to form in Dr. John's heart, without him fully realizing it yet. In the midst of a hectic day at the hospital, where the sound of machines and the hurried murmurs of the team created a symphony of urgency, a pregnant young woman entered, her eyes filled with fear and despair. Her trembling hands held her protruding belly as she headed, almost stumbling, to the reception. She stopped in front of the receptionist, her voice choked by anguish. "Please help me, my baby can't wait." But the young woman's words hit a wall of bureaucracy and indifference. "Without health insurance, we can't help," was the cold response she received, a verdict that left her paralyzed. Dr. John, on the other side of the room, watched the scene with a mix of compassion and internal conflict. He felt every fiber of his being begging him to act, but the hospital rules echoed in his mind. He knew he was caught between professional duty and his own ethics. A silent battle waged in his heart. The young woman left the hospital with tears streaming down her face, her despair resonating through the corridors. Dr. John watched, powerless, as she disappeared through the door, carrying with her the weight of a decision that he knew could haunt him. Guilt began to take root, even though he was not yet fully aware of it. That night was long and restless for Dr. John. He tossed and turned in bed, unable to escape the image of the desperate young woman. Her eyes, filled with fear and pleading, were etched in his mind, a relentless reminder of his choice. He sat up in bed, his gaze fixed on the dark ceiling. "What am I doing with my life?" he thought, guilt gnawing at his soul. He had chosen to follow the rules, but now he questioned whether those rules justified abandoning someone in such urgent need. Dr. John's thoughts took him back to his own humble childhood, where promising himself never to deny help to those in need was a sacred oath. He remembered the struggles his family faced and how the compassion of strangers had made all the difference. As the night wore on, determination began to take shape. Dr. John knew he could not ignore what he felt. He decided that somehow he needed to right his wrong. The pregnant young woman and her baby could not just be another statistic. He had to act. And the weight of that decision began to change the course of his life. The next morning, the city was still enveloped in chilly quietude. Dr. John, exhausted from a sleepless night, opened his front door and was met with a sight that nearly stopped his heart. There, on the threshold, wrapped in a tattered blanket, was a baby, small and fragile, with a note pinned to the fabric. "Please take care of my baby. I have no one else," read the note in trembling letters. Shock and guilt struck Dr. John like a wave. He knew without a doubt that this was the baby of the pregnant young woman he had refused to help. Without hesitation, he picked up the baby, feeling the little life snuggle against his chest. Determined not to repeat his mistake, Dr. John ran back to the hospital, ignoring the curious glances of his colleagues. "It's an emergency," he declared, his voice firm and laden with urgency. The team hesitated, but Dr. John's resolve was enough to convince them to act. Hours passed like seconds as Dr. John and the medical team struggled to stabilize the baby. Each breath was a victory, each heartbeat a renewed hope. Finally, the baby began to show signs of improvement, and a collective sigh of relief filled the room. But Dr. John knew the real battle was still ahead, but the battle was far from over. While still dealing with the baby's situation, Dr. John received devastating news. Clara, the young mother, was in critical condition at a public hospital. The guilt he had felt the night before returned with full force. Dr. John found himself torn between his responsibility for the baby and the duty to save Clara. He knew he could not fail again. Decided, he made quick arrangements for Clara's transfer to his hospital, where he could supervise her treatment personally. The ambulance raced through the city while Dr. John kept his eyes fixed on the road, his heart pounding. He knew every second counted. Arriving at the hospital, he ran alongside the paramedics, holding Clara's hand as she was rushed into the emergency room. Inside the emergency room, Dr. John and his team worked tirelessly. It was a race against time, and every decision was crucial. Finally, after hours of effort, Clara began to show signs of recovery. Dr. John felt a deep relief, but he knew the road ahead would still be long and full of challenges. His determination, however, was stronger than ever. With every hurried step through the hospital corridors, Dr. John's heart pounded with a mix of fear and hope. The baby, nestled in his arms, seemed even more fragile under the cold hospital lights. He knew there was no time to lose. Donna Maria, the head nurse, was organizing medications when Dr. John arrived, breathless. "We need to care for this baby immediately, Donna Maria. It's a matter of life or death," he said, his voice laden with urgency. The nurse looked at the baby and then at Dr. John, recognizing the gravity of the situation without needing further explanation. They worked side by side in a race against time. Every breath of the baby was closely monitored, every beat of his tiny heart a battle won. Dr. John felt a mix of relief and responsibility growing inside him. This was his moment of redemption, and he could not fail again. After hours of effort, the baby began to respond to treatments, his breathing becoming more regular. "I think he's going to be okay," Donna Maria said with a smile of relief. Dr. John deeply sighed, feeling some of the weight lift from his shoulders. But the relief was brief. A colleague entered the room with a worried expression. "Dr. John, Mr. Fernando is furious. He wants to see you in the meeting room now." Dr. John knew he would face consequences, but he was prepared to defend his actions. With his heart still racing, Dr. John walked towards the meeting room where Mr. Fernando awaited him with a stern expression. "Dr. John, you disobeyed our rules by bringing an uninsured baby into this hospital. This is unacceptable," the director said, his voice cold and cutting. "I did what any doctor would do in an emergency. I could not simply ignore the life of a child," Dr. John responded with conviction. He knew he was risking his career, but he could not deny his principles. His firm voice reflected the determination growing within him. However, Mr. Fernando was not convinced. "Your actions have consequences, Dr. John. This cannot continue. We will need to discuss your stay at this hospital," he said, the chill in his voice increasing the tension in the air. Dr. John left the room feeling crushed, but also determined to find a solution for the baby and for Clara. Back in the emergency room, Dr. John found Donna Maria waiting anxiously. "How is he?" she asked, trying to keep calm. "Stable for now, but he needs continuous care," Donna Maria responded. Dr. John knew he needed to act quickly. "I'll find a public hospital that can care for the baby and Clara. I won't give up on them," he said, his determination clear in every word. The transfer was tense. Each bump in the ambulance made Dr. John hold the baby more tightly. Finally, they arrived at the public hospital, where a medical team was ready to receive them. The struggle was far from over, but Dr. John was prepared to face each challenge that lay ahead. The public hospital had a completely different atmosphere. The facilities were simple and the resources limited, but there was a human warmth that contrasted with the coldness of the private hospital. Dr. John handed the baby over to the medical team, feeling a mix of relief and responsibility. "Please take care of him. I need to go see Clara," he said, his voice carrying urgency and determination. Without wasting time, Dr. John ran through the hospital corridors, each step a race against time. When he finally found Clara, she was unconscious, connected to various machines. Her pale, exhausted face reflected the severity of her condition. Dr. John felt a twinge of guilt, remembering the moment he had refused her. He approached the medical team, his voice trembling but determined. "What can we do for her?" he asked, feeling the weight of his responsibility. "She needs intensive treatment and constant vigilance," one of the doctors responded, his voice full of resolve. Dr. John knew he could not fail again and decided he would do everything within his power to save Clara. Working alongside the medical team, Dr. John improvised treatments and used all the knowledge and experience he had. Each procedure was a race against time, but Dr. John's determination never wavered. He knew every second counted and could not afford to make a mistake. With each slight improvement, he felt a new hope growing inside him, a step towards redemption. As the night progressed, Clara began to show signs of improvement. Her heart, which had been beating irregularly, was now more stable, and her vital signs began to normalize. Dr. John felt an indescribable relief upon hearing the news, knowing that each small progress was a step in the right direction. In the following days, Dr. John divided his time between the public hospital and a fundraising campaign he had initiated to improve equipment and care. He visited local businessmen, delivered moving speeches, and mobilized the community to support the cause. His determination and passion began to inspire others, and the campaign quickly gained momentum. At one of these fundraising events, Dr. John encountered an old college friend, Dr. Marcos, now the director of a large hospital in the capital. "Alexandra, I've heard about your situation. I want to help. We will provide the necessary equipment and training for the public hospital staff," said Marcos, shaking his hand firmly. The help was a game changer, bringing new resources and hope. Clara gradually began to regain consciousness. One morning, her eyes slowly opened, finding Dr. John by her side. "Doctor, my baby," she murmured, her voice weak but full of concern. Dr. John smiled and held her hand. "He's fine, Clara. He's stable and well cared for. You're also getting better," he said, his voice laden with emotion. Clara smiled weakly, feeling a relief she couldn't express in words, while Dr. John felt renewed hope and determination. With each passing day, Clara gained more strength. Dr. John never left her alone, watching each progress with increasing relief. In the public hospital, improvements were becoming visible. New equipment, provided thanks to the fundraising efforts, was in full use, and patient care improved daily. The bond between Dr. John and Clara strengthened, cemented by their struggle for the baby's life. He spent hours by the crib, watching little Gabriel, the name Clara had chosen for the baby, in honor of the angel who brought hope to them. Each of Clara's smiles and each heartbeat of Gabriel were daily reminders of why he had chosen to be a doctor. One day, as Dr. John sat beside Gabriel's crib, he was surprised by the arrival of Donna Maria and several colleagues from the private hospital. "Alexander, we've heard about what you've done here. Many of us want to help," she said with a warm smile. They brought supplies, medications, and moral support that renewed Dr. John's strength. Dr. John felt a wave of gratitude flood his heart. He knew he was not alone in this fight. With the support of former colleagues and the community, the public hospital flourished. Every act of solidarity reinforced his determination to continue making a difference. He was beginning to see the fruits of his effort, filling him with new hope. Finally, the day arrived when Clara and Gabriel were ready to leave the hospital. The sun shone brightly, symbolizing hope and renewal. Dr. John, Clara, and Gabriel left together, a new family united by adversity and shared struggle. "Let's go home," said Dr. John with a smile full of promises. At home, Clara felt a peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. While rocking Gabriel, she looked at Dr. John with gratitude. "I want to help improve the public hospital, just like you did," she said. Dr. John smiled, admiring Clara's strength and resilience. "Together, we can do so much more," he replied, feeling inspired by her determination. In the days that followed, Clara got involved in fundraising projects and campaigns to raise awareness about the importance of healthcare access. Her charisma and passion drew crowds, and the fundraising reached record levels. "We couldn't have done this without you, Clara," Dr. John said at one of these events, moved by the positive impact they were causing. The impact of Dr. John and Clara's work did not go unnoticed. One day, Dr. John was called to a meeting with the new director of the public hospital. "Dr. John, your work here has been exemplary. We would like to invite you to take on a leadership role in our medical team, the director said with a genuine smile. Dr. John felt a mix of surprise and gratitude. It would be an honor, he replied, knowing this position would allow him to continue promoting positive changes. With his new role, he implemented various improvements, ensuring that everyone received the best care possible. With his new leadership role, Dr. John was determined to transform the public hospital into a model of excellence. He implemented training programs for doctors and nurses, ensuring everyone was prepared to provide the best care possible. Each change was a step toward a better future for the patients. Meanwhile, Clara organized events and lectures, mobilizing the community to support the cause. Her charisma and passion were contagious, attracting more and more people. The fundraisers broke records, bringing new resources to the hospital. "Together, we are making a difference," Clara would say in her speeches, inspiring everyone around her. Dr. John and Clara made an unbeatable team. He took care of the medical side with precision and dedication, and she brought support and resources with her contagious energy. The public hospital, once a place of despair, was now full of life and optimism. Every grateful smile from the patients was a reminder of the positive impact of their work. On a quiet night after a day full of achievements, Dr. John and Clara sat on the porch at home, watching Gabriel sleep peacefully. "We did it, Clara. We're really making a difference," said Dr. John, his voice full of emotion. Clara held his hand, her eyes shining with pride. "And this is just the beginning," she replied with a hopeful smile. Together, they knew they could face any challenge that came their way. Despite the advances, not everything was rosy. Dr. John still faced resistance from some long-standing colleagues who opposed the changes. "We've been here for years and know how things work. These changes are unnecessary," argued one of the senior doctors. Dr. John knew resistance was part of the process, but he was determined to move forward. While Dr. John dealt with internal challenges, Clara received an unexpected offer. An NGO promoting maternal and child health in underserved areas wanted her to join them. "It's an incredible opportunity, but I don't want to leave you and Gabriel," said Clara, torn between her desire to help more people and her need to be with her family. "Clara, this is a unique chance. You can make a difference for so many other mothers and babies." "We will find a way to make this work," said Dr. John, holding her hand firmly. With Dr. John's support, Clara accepted the offer and began splitting her time between the NGO and her family. The distance was challenging, but they were determined to make it work. The following months were intense but rewarding. Dr. John and Clara learned to balance their responsibilities and support each other. Gabriel grew up healthy and happy, surrounded by love and care. "Clara, we're here together, facing everything, and stronger than ever," said Dr. John on a quiet night, his eyes filled with tears of gratitude. "Thank you for never giving up on us," replied Clara, feeling blessed to have him by her side. Their journey was proof that with love and determination, any challenge could be overcome. Life seemed to finally settle into a harmonious rhythm, but new challenges arose to test Dr. John and Clara's resolve. An anonymous complaint revealed that some hospital staff were accepting bribes to prioritize patients with financial resources. The news deeply shook Dr. John, feeling it betrayed everything he and Clara had fought for. Determined to restore the hospital's integrity, Dr. John, with Clara's unwavering support, initiated an internal investigation. They interviewed patients, reviewed documents, and spoke with staff seeking the truth. The tension was palpable, but Dr. John and Clara's determination to seek justice propelled them. Each discovery brought them closer to the truth, strengthening their union. Finally, armed with irrefutable evidence, Dr. John and Clara took the case to the appropriate authorities. The community, touched by the couple's courage, rallied in support, demanding transparency and justice. "We cannot let corruption destroy what we've built," declared Dr. John, his voice firm and determined. The investigation gained media attention, and Dr. John and Clara's actions inspired others to fight for a fairer healthcare system. Amid the chaos of the investigation, Dr. John received an unexpected call from his friend Dr. Marcos. "Alexandra, we are impressed with your work and your fight against corruption at the hospital. We would like to invite you to become the new director of our humanitarian care unit in the capital," said Marcos, his voice full of enthusiasm. Dr. John was torn. pondering the decision. Clara, this is an incredible opportunity, but it would mean leaving San Lorenzo in the community we helped transform, said Dr. John, his voice filled with emotion. Clara, always his biggest supporter, smiled and held his hand. Alexandra, you can expand your impact and help even more people. We can do this together no matter where we are, she replied with unwavering determination. After much reflection, Dr. John decided to accept the offer. The community of San Lorenzo bid him farewell with gratitude and affection, recognizing the legacy he left behind. Clara would continue to work with the NGO, splitting her time between the capital and San Lorenzo, ensuring that the projects they started continued to flourish. We are ready for a new chapter, said Dr. John, with a confident smile, as they prepared for the next phase of their lives. The story of Dr. John and Clara is a powerful reminder that compassion and determination can transform lives and communities. They faced immense challenges, but together they created a legacy of hope and change. If you were inspired by this journey, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And for more moving and transformative stories, watch the other videos. See you next time. If this story inspired you, imagine what else is waiting for you. Don't miss out. Hit the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and explore more powerful stories on our channel. Your next favorite video could be just a click away.